Let me be very clear about something. When Michael Jordan left the game of basketball in 1993, it was a shock to the system. It was something nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. He was at the absolute peak of his powers. The man had just completed a three-peat, winning 3 straight NBA championships with the Chicago Bulls. He was the undisputed king of the court, the face of the league, a global icon. There was no one on his level, not then, not now. But the man was tired. He was emotionally drained, and the tragic loss of his father, James Jordan, hit him harder than any defender ever could. The pressure was immense, the media scrutiny was constant, and he had lost the desire to play. So he walked away. He traded in his basketball sneakers for baseball cleats, chasing a dream he shared with his late father. It was a noble pursuit, I will give him that. But it left a giant hole in the heart of the NBA. You take the greatest player to ever touch a basketball out of the league, and what do you have left? A void, a power vacuum. The Chicago Bulls, a team built around his greatness, were suddenly without their leader, their closer, their everything. The entire league felt his absence. It was a dark time for basketball fans everywhere who had grown accustomed to witnessing his unparalleled brilliance night in and night out. This decision created one of the biggest what-ifs in all of sports history. It's a question that we still debate to this very day on First Take. What if he had stayed? What if the burnout, the grief, the immense pressure hadn't been enough to drive him away from the game he was born to dominate? What if he had found the strength to continue his reign without interruption? The implications are staggering to consider. We are talking about a fundamental rewriting of the NBA's history books. The entire narrative of the 1990s would be completely and utterly different from what we know and what we remember. So let's just imagine it. Let's entertain this alternate reality for a moment. Picture a world where Michael Jeffrey Jordan never held that press conference. A world where he returned for the 1993-94 season with that same fire in his eyes, ready to chase a 4th consecutive title. The Chicago Bulls would not have been a team trying to find its identity without him. They would have been the undisputed, unquestioned, undeniable favorites to win it all, again and again. The history of the league, the legacies of other players, the very fabric of basketball as we know it would have been altered forever. It's a scenario that is both tantalizing and frankly a little bit scary to think about. Now, if Michael Jordan stays with the Chicago Bulls, let's not get it twisted. We are not talking about 4, 5, or 6 championships. Oh no. That is blasphemous to even suggest. We are talking about an unprecedented run of titles that would make Bill Russell's Celtics blush. The Bulls had just won 3 in a row. With a motivated MJ, alongside his trusted lieutenant Scottie Pippen, do you seriously believe anyone could have stopped them? The New York Knicks? Please. Patrick Ewing is my brother, but he wasn't beating Jordan. The Indiana Pacers with Reggie Miller, a great shooter, but not on this level. It would have been a wrap. The 1994 and 95 championships would have belonged to Chicago. There is no doubt in my mind. Hakeem Olajuwon is an all-time great, a phenomenal player, but his Houston Rockets would not have gotten past a full-strength Bulls team with Michael Jordan. It's just not happening. That means the Bulls would have been chasing their 5th straight title in 1996, and then their 6th in 97, and their 7th in 98. We are looking at the possibility of 8 consecutive NBA championships. An 8-peat. That would have been the single greatest achievement in the history of professional team sports, period. It would have been a dynasty so dominant, so absolute, that no one would ever question their place in history. Think about the psychological damage this would have inflicted on the rest of the league. Teams would have been broken before they even stepped on the court. The Bulls' home court, the United Center, would have been a fortress of despair for any visiting team. Every single season, the question would not be, who will win the championship? But can anyone even take the Bulls to a 7th game? The level of dominance would have been suffocating for the rest of the NBA. It would have created an era where there was Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, and then there was everybody else, fighting for scraps. And let's not forget the team itself, the continuity, the chemistry, the sheer will to win would have been off the charts. Phil Jackson, the Zen master, would have overseen a machine of basketball perfection. Scottie Pippen would have continued to flourish as the ultimate second-in-command, a perennial all-star and all-world defender. Dennis Rodman would still join the fray to create the most formidable trio the league has ever seen. The dynasty wouldn't have been interrupted, it would have been amplified. We would have witnessed a level of sustained excellence that would have been almost mythical, a story told for generations of basketball fans to come. Let's talk about the numbers, because the numbers don't lie. Michael Jordan's statistics are already legendary, but if he never took that 21-month vacation to play baseball, his records would be absolutely untouchable. It's disrespectful to even think about what he would have accomplished. He missed nearly 2 full seasons in his prime. In the 1992-93 season, he scored 2,541 points. Let's be conservative and say he averages just 2,000 points for those 2 missed seasons. That's another 4,000 points added to his career total. That would place him well over 36,000 career points, putting him right there with Karl Malone and LeBron James, and within striking distance of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record. But it's not just about the points, it's about the accolades. The sheer volume of hardware he would have collected would be staggering. He won 5 MVP awards in his career. You're telling me he wouldn't have won the MVP in 1994 or 95? Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson are legends, but they were not Michael Jordan. He would have easily had 7 MVP awards, tying Kareem for the most all-time. And the Finals MVP trophies? He was a perfect 6 for 6 in the Finals. With 8 straight titles, that means he would have 8 Finals MVP awards. No one else has more than 4. It would be a record so far out of reach it would be like a star in a distant galaxy. His defensive prowess would have also been on full display. He was already a Defensive Player of the Year and a 9-time All-Defensive First-Team selection. 2 more full seasons of locking down the other team's best player? That puts him at 11 All-Defensive selections, placing him among the absolute greatest perimeter defenders to ever play the game, without question. His steals totals would have climbed even higher, further cementing his legacy as a disruptive force on both ends of the floor. We are talking about a player who would have redefined statistical greatness for a guard, setting benchmarks that future generations could only dream of reaching. So when we talk about the greatest of all time, the GOAT debate, this alternate history would end the conversation for good. It would be over, finished. There would be no more discussion. His resume would be so utterly dominant, so complete, so far beyond any other player in history, that any argument against him would be dismissed as pure folly. He would not just be the undisputed GOAT, he would be a basketball deity. His statistical profile would be as legendary as his championship rings, creating a legacy that is simply unimpeachable from any angle you look at it. The ripple effect on the rest of the NBA would have been massive. Michael Jordan's continued dominance would have cast a very, very long shadow over an entire generation of superstars. Think about the great players of that era whose legacies would be completely different. Hakeem, the Dream. Olajuwon would likely be ringless. His back-to-back titles in 1994 and 95 were the crowning achievement of his spectacular career, but they happened in a league without MJ. Without those rings, is he still viewed in that same upper echelon of centers? It's a legitimate question. His greatness would still be there, but his legacy would be fundamentally altered. Then, you have the Hall of Famers from the East. Patrick Ewing, my dear friend, retired as one of the greatest players to never win a championship. His Knicks battled Jordan's Bulls year after year and always came up short. With Jordan still there, those epic playoff battles would have continued, likely with the same heartbreaking result for New York. The same goes for Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers. Their epic 7-game series against the Bulls in 1998 was their best shot. In this alternate reality, they would have likely faced that same buzzsaw several more times, with no hope of ever breaking through to the NBA Finals. And what about the West? What about the Utah Jazz, led by the iconic duo of Karl Malone and John Stockton? They are perhaps the most tragic figures in this what-if scenario. They made 2 NBA Finals and were denied by Jordan both times. If the Bulls had won 8 straight, it's possible the Jazz would have been denied even more. Their window to win a championship would have been completely slammed shut by the dynasty in Chicago. And let's not forget a young Shaquille O'Neal whose Orlando Magic were swept by the Bulls in 1996. His path to becoming a champion would have been delayed even further. Ultimately, the entire history of the NBA in the 1990s would be remembered as the Jordan era in its most absolute form. There would be no shared spotlight. The stories we tell about the Rockets, the Knicks, the Jazz, all of those incredible teams would be relegated to footnotes in the larger story of the Bulls' unbreakable dynasty. Fan memories would be different. Instead of celebrating the brief windows of opportunity seized by other great teams, we would simply remember a decade of total domination by one man and one team. It would be a less diverse, less varied history, but one that cemented Michael Jordan's reign in a way that not even his real-life spectacular career could match.